I've been waiting for your call. Heir. The word hit me so hard I almost dropped the phone. Heir? My fingers tightened around the cold metal of the railing outside Grandpa's house. My breath came out in white clouds in the evening air. Inside, through the big glowing windows, I could still see my family laughing. Glasses were raised. Someone turned on music. Grandpa had been dead for 3 days. And they were celebrating. I think you have the wrong person, I whispered into the phone. The voice on the other end was calm. Slow, certain. No, I don't. A car passed on the road behind me, headlights sweeping across the yard. For a second, I felt like I was standing in the middle of something much bigger than me, and I didn't understand any of it. You were given an envelope today, the voice continued. Yellow, old, your name written by hand. My heart started beating faster. Yes. Good, the voice said softly. Then everything is happening exactly as he planned. He. Not Grandpa. He. Before I could ask another question, the line went silent. I pulled the phone away and stared at the screen. Call ended. I stood there for a long time, the cold biting my ears, my hands shaking. Then I slowly looked down at the envelope still clutched in my other hand. It looked small, thin, worthless. Just like they all said, that morning had started with fake tears and real smiles. Grandpa's house was the biggest on the street, with tall white columns and shiny black doors. I had always loved it when I was little. It smelled like books and lemon polish, but today it smelled like perfume and expensive coats. Every chair in the living room was taken. My relatives filled the space with loud whispers. I heard there's a beach house. I want the car collection. He promised me shares years ago. I sat in the corner of the couch, hands folded in my lap, wishing I could disappear into the cushions. I actually missed Grandpa. Not his money. Not his house. Just him. He used to let me sit with him in the garden while he drank tea. We didn't always talk. Sometimes we just watched birds. He once told me, you notice things other people rush past. I didn't know what he meant back then. Now I think maybe I do. The lawyer stood near the fireplace, holding a thick folder. He looked nervous, like he wanted to be anywhere else. My sister, Clara, leaned close to Aunt Beatrice and whispered something that made them both laugh. When Clara noticed me looking, she rolled her eyes and looked away. I was used to that. The lawyer cleared his throat. Thank you all for coming. We are here to read the last will and testament. The room went quiet fast. Names were called one by one. Uncle Roland got 2 apartment buildings and part of Grandpa's company. He smiled so wide I thought his face might split. Aunt Beatrice got the vacation house. She actually clapped her hands. Cousin Natalie got a trust fund for future business plans, even though she had never kept a job longer than 3 months. Each time someone got something, they tried to act sad for 1 second, then happy for the next 10. I kept waiting for the lawyer to say my name. My stomach felt tight and twisty. Finally, he did. I sat up straight. He looked at me for a moment longer than the others. Then he reached into a small box beside him and pulled out a thin, yellow envelope. That's it? Clara said loudly. A few people snickered. The lawyer walked over and handed it to me with both hands, like it was fragile. This was left specifically for you, he said quietly. I looked down at it. My name was written in Grandpa's handwriting. A little shaky, but I knew those letters anywhere. Behind me, Natalie laughed. Maybe it's a recipe, she said. Or a grocery list. Uncle Roland leaned back in his chair. Looks like not everyone was a favorite after all. Heat climbed up my neck, but I didn't say anything. I just opened the envelope. Inside was a single folded paper. No money. No check. Just a phone number. Under it were 3 words. Call alone. Immediately. I read it twice. 3 times. What is it? Clara asked, leaning over my shoulder. Nothing, I said quickly, folding the paper and slipping it back inside. See? She said to the others. Told you. The lawyer continued reading, but I didn't hear any of it. My ears were ringing. My hands felt cold even though the room was warm. Grandpa wouldn't do this as a joke. He wasn't cruel, and he wasn't careless. I waited until people started talking loudly again, comparing who got more. Then I stood up quietly and walked toward the hallway. No one stopped me. No one noticed. Outside, The sky was turning orange and purple. I stepped off the porch and walked a little way down the path, past the big oak tree Grandpa loved. That's where I took out my phone. I stared at the number for a long time. Then I dialed. It rang only once. "I've been waiting for your call, heir." The words still echoed in my head. Hey. Not to money. Not to a house. Something else. And somehow, it was me. "Heir?" I whispered into the phone. "There must be a mistake." "There is no mistake," the voice said gently. "Your grandfather chose very carefully." I looked back at the house. Through the bright windows, I could see Uncle Roland pouring another drink. Aunt Beatrice was showing something on her phone, probably a picture of the vacation house she now owned. Everyone looked happy. Too happy. "I don't understand," I said. "Everyone else got money. Houses, businesses. I just got a phone number." "Yes," the voice said. "That is exactly why you are the heir." That didn't make sense at all. "Who are you?" I asked. A small pause. Someone your grandfather trusted, someone he knew would answer when the time came. My heart thumped loudly. Answer what? The truth? A cold breeze blew across the yard, making the trees rustle. I wrapped my free arm around myself. "You need to listen carefully," the voice said. "And you must not tell anyone about this call. Not your sister, not your relatives, no one." "Why?" "Because the people inside that house are not who you think they are." I swallowed. "They're my family." "Are they?" the voice asked softly. I didn't know how to answer that. "Your grandfather loved you," the voice continued. "Not because you were loud, not because you tried to impress him, but because you were kind when no one was watching." Tears stung my eyes. I blinked them away. "He saw how you brought him tea without being asked," the voice said. "How you fixed the bird feeder. How you sat with him even when he forgot what day it was." "How do you know that?" I whispered. "Because he told me many times." I felt like the ground under me wasn't steady anymore. "Your grandfather believed something very important," the voice went on. "He believed that giving money to the wrong people is like giving matches to someone who likes to play with fire." Inside the house, loud laughter exploded. Someone cheered. "He left them wealth," the voice said. "But not what mattered most." My chest felt tight. What does that mean? "It means the real inheritance was never meant to be found in that living room." A long silence stretched between us. "I'm scared," I admitted. "I know," the voice said. "That's why I'm here." For some reason, those words made me feel a tiny bit braver. "What do I have to do?" I asked. "Tomorrow morning, you will go to the old train station on Mill Road. The one that closed years ago." "I know it," I said. "Grandpa once drove me past it and told me stories about trains that used to run there." "You must go alone," the voice said. "Be there at exactly 9 a.m.? "What happens if I don't?" Another pause. "Then everything your grandfather tried to protect may disappear forever." My stomach dropped. "Protect from who?" The voice didn't answer right away. "Your family is already wondering why you got that envelope," it finally said. "They think it's nothing, but they are curious, and curious people start looking." I thought of Clara leaning over my shoulder, of Natalie's sharp eyes, of Uncle Roland watching everything like it belonged to him already. "They can't know." The voice said, "Not yet." "Okay," I whispered. "I won't tell anyone." "Good. One more thing." "Yes? Did your grandfather ever give you a small wooden box?" "Years ago." My breath caught. "Yes. When I was little, it had carvings on it. I still have it." "Keep it safe," the voice said. "You will understand why soon." Before I could ask more, the call ended again. I stood there in the fading light, my phone dark in my hand, my mind spinning. Heir. Train station. Secrets. I turned slowly toward the house. Music was playing now. Someone had opened a bottle of something expensive. Laughter spilled out every time the door opened. I felt like I was standing outside a party I didn't belong to. Maybe I never had. When I walked back inside, no one asked where I'd been. Clara was sitting on the arm of a chair, talking loudly. "If I invest smart," she was saying, "I won't even need to work by next year." Aunt Beatrice spotted me. "Oh, there you are," she said with a fake smile. "Feeling better about your envelope?" A few people chuckled. I forced a small smile. Yeah, it's fine. Good, Uncle Roland said, because life isn't fair, right? More laughter. I looked at all of them, their happy faces, their shiny watches, their greedy eyes, and for the first time in my life, I wondered something that made my skin prickle. What if Grandpa knew something about them that I didn't? I slipped my hand into my pocket and touched the folded paper with the phone number. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Old train station. Whatever Grandpa left me. It wasn't small, and somehow, everyone else in this house would wish they had gotten the envelope instead. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Grandpa's handwriting on the envelope. I heard the voice on the phone saying one word over and over, heir. At 6 a.m., the house was still quiet. For once, no one was laughing, no music, no loud talking about money. I got dressed slowly, trying not to make noise. I wore my warmest sweater and my old sneakers. My hands shook while I tied the laces. Before leaving my room, I reached under my bed and pulled out the small wooden box Grandpa gave me years ago. It was smooth and dark, with tiny carvings shaped like leaves and birds. I used to keep marbles in it, then letters, then nothing. But I never threw it away. I ran my thumb over the carvings. "Keep it safe," the voice had said. I slipped it into my backpack. The hallway creaked as I walked. I froze, listening. No doors opened, no voices called my name. Good. I quietly slipped out the front door into the cold morning air. The sky was pale gray, like the day hadn't decided if it wanted to be sunny or sad. The old train station on Mill Road was about a 20-minute walk. Grandpa used to drive me past it when I was little. He'd tell stories about people waving goodbye, about letters being sent across the country, about journeys starting in small places. Now it was abandoned. Paint peeled off the walls. The sign with the station name hung crooked. Weeds grew through cracks in the pavement. I checked my phone. 8:58 a.m. I stood near the broken bench and hugged myself for warmth. My heart beat fast with every sound: a bird flapping, wind in the trees, a car passing far away. At exactly 9, my phone buzzed. I jumped. Unknown number. I answered. "Hello? You're on time," the voice said. "I'm here," I whispered, turning in a slow circle. "I don't see anyone." "You're not supposed to," the voice replied. "Go inside the station building. There are old storage lockers against the far wall." I pushed open the station door. It groaned loudly, and dust floated in the sunlight coming through broken windows. The air smelled old, like paper and rust. "There are numbers on the lockers," the voice said. "Find number 27. I walked slowly along the wall. 19, 21, 24. There. The small metal door had a tiny lock on it. "It's locked," I said. "Check under the third bench from the entrance." I hurried back. My hands brushed under the cold wood. Something small and hard touched my fingers. A key. "How did you—" I started. "Your grandfather planned very carefully," the voice said. I went back to locker 27 and slid the key into the lock. It turned with a soft click. My heart pounded as I opened the little metal door. Inside was another envelope, and a small brass key taped to the front. I took them out slowly. The envelope had my name on it again. My hands felt tingly as I opened it. Inside was a short note in Grandpa's handwriting. "You always listened. That is why I chose you. This is the first step. Trust your heart, not their voices." I swallowed hard. "What does it mean?" I asked into the phone. "The brass key opens a safety deposit box at North River Bank," the voice said. "Your grandfather set it up years ago." "What's inside?" "The truth," the voice said quietly. A shiver ran down my back. "Why didn't he just tell me?" I asked. "Because some truths are safer hidden until the right moment," the voice replied. And because he needed to be sure the right person would follow the path. A loud sound made me jump. A car door slammed outside. I hurried to the window and peeked through a crack in the dusty glass. A dark car was parked across the street. My stomach dropped. I knew that car. Uncle Roland's. "I think someone followed me," I whispered. The voice went silent for half a second. Then calm but firmer, it said, "Stay inside. Do not let him see you." My heart hammered so hard it hurt. What if he comes in? There's a back exit through the old ticket office, the voice said. Leave quietly if you must, but first listen carefully. I forced myself to focus. Your family believes your grandfather owed them everything, the voice continued. But years ago, something happened that changed how he saw them. What happened? They took credit for something that did not belong to them. I thought of how Uncle Roland always talked about his business ideas, how Aunt Beatrice bragged about helping build the family success. Your grandfather discovered the truth, the voice said. But exposing it back then would have destroyed the family, so he waited. Waited for what? For you to grow up. My breath caught. Why me? Because you are the only one who reminds him of someone he lost, the voice said gently. My eyes filled with tears. My parent? Yes. I had been very young when my parent died. I only had blurry memories, a laugh, a warm hug, the smell of soap and coffee. They were honest, the voice said. Brilliant. Kind. And they were hurt by the very people celebrating inside that house yesterday. Before I could ask more, the station door creaked loudly. Footsteps. Heavy ones. Uncle Roland's voice echoed from the front of the station. Hello? Anyone here? I covered my mouth to stop myself from gasping. He followed you, the voice said quietly. He must have seen you leave the house. What do I do? I breathed. Take the envelope and the key. Leave through the back. Now. I moved as quietly as I could, my legs shaking. I slipped through the old ticket office, pushing open a narrow door that led outside behind the building. Cold air hit my face. I didn't stop walking until I reached the trees at the edge of the road. Only then did I look back. Through the dusty station window, I saw Uncle Roland inside, looking around, confused. My phone was still at my ear. This is only the beginning, the voice said, and now they know something is happening. I clutched the brass key tightly in my hand. What if they try to stop me? I asked. They will, the voice said. Because deep down, they are afraid of what your grandfather might have left behind. I looked down at the note again. Trust your heart, not their voices. For the first time, I understood. Grandpa hadn't left me nothing. He had left me a path. And my family had just taken the first step into trying to steal it. I didn't go home right away. I walked the long way back, through side streets and quiet paths, my hood pulled low over my face. Every time I heard a car, my heart jumped. Every time someone looked at me, I wondered if they knew. Uncle Roland had followed me. That meant one thing. They didn't think the envelope was a joke anymore. My phone buzzed in my hand. I'm still here, the voice said softly. Are you safe? I think so, I whispered. He went inside the station. I left through the back, like you said. Good, you did exactly right. I looked down at the brass key in my palm. It was small, shiny, and heavy for its size. What's in the safety deposit box? I asked again. Proof, the voice said. Your grandfather wanted you to see the truth with your own eyes, not just hear it from me. Proof of what they did. Yes. My chest felt tight. I wasn't sure I was ready to know. But I also knew I couldn't turn back now. When can I go? I asked. The bank opens at 10, the voice said. Go today. The sooner you know, the sooner you understand why your grandfather made this choice. What if my family goes there too? They don't know which bank. The voice replied. And they don't know what to ask for. Right now, they only have suspicion. You have direction. That made me feel a tiny bit stronger. I'll call you after, I said. I'll be waiting. North River Bank was big and quiet, with shiny floors and soft lights. It smelled like paper and polish. I had never been inside a place like this before. My sneakers squeaked as I walked to the front desk. The woman there smiled politely. How can I help you? My voice almost shook. I have a key. For a safety deposit box. It was left to me. She nodded like this happened every day. Do you have identification? I handed over my ID. My fingers felt clumsy. After checking some things on her computer, she stood. Follow me, please. We walked through a secure door into a hallway with small metal boxes covering the walls from floor to ceiling. She stopped in front of one near the back. This one requires both your key and the bank key, she explained. My heart pounded as I held out the brass key. She inserted hers. I inserted mine. Together, we turned them. Click. She pulled out a long metal box and carried it to a small private room with a table. I'll leave you here, she said kindly. Take your time. When the door closed behind her, the room felt very quiet. I sat down slowly. Then I opened the box. Inside were 3 things: a thick envelope full of papers, a small flash drive, and an old photograph. My hands trembled as I picked up the photo first. It showed Grandpa standing beside someone younger. Someone smiling. Someone I recognized. My parent. They were standing in front of a building with a big sign that read, Foundation Launch Day. My throat closed up. I had never seen this picture before. They both looked proud, happy, like they had built something together. I carefully set the photo down and opened the envelope. Inside were documents, lots of them, contracts, letters, company papers. At the top of one page was my parents' name. Under it, Original Founder, Sole Concept Creator. My eyes scanned the next lines. It described a project, a system, an idea that later became one of the biggest parts of Grandpa's business success. But the final signed version of the company papers, the one the world saw, had different names listed as creators. Uncle Roland. Aunt Beatrice. My hands started to shake harder. No, I whispered. I flipped through more papers. Emails printed out, letters between lawyers, notes written by Grandpa. One note stood out, written in his familiar handwriting. They said it was just business. They said your parent was too young, too soft. They pushed them out and took the credit. I was too late to stop it. I will not be too late again. Tears blurred my vision. I wiped them away, but more came. All those years. My parent had not just worked with Grandpa. They had built something amazing. And it had been stolen. My chest hurt like someone was pressing on it. I picked up the flash drive next. There was a small note taped to it, for when you are ready to hear it. I didn't have a computer with me, but I knew what it meant. Recordings, proof, voices that couldn't lie on paper. I sat there for a long time, just breathing. This was the truth the voice had talked about. This was why Grandpa had looked sad sometimes when certain relatives visited. This was why he watched me so carefully in the garden. I reminded him of the person they had hurt. A soft knock came at the door. I quickly gathered everything back into the box. The bank worker smiled when I opened it. All set? Yes, I said quietly. She locked the box again and returned it to the wall. But she didn't take the truth back with it. That was with me now. Outside the bank, my phone rang. I'm here, the voice said when I answered. I saw it, I whispered. A long pause. Then you understand, the voice said. They stole it, I said. They stole everything from my parent. Yes. And Grandpa knew. Yes. Why didn't he tell the world? Because proving it back then would have destroyed the company, the family, everything your parent worked for, the voice said. He chose to protect the future instead. I looked up at the sky. It felt bigger somehow. So what happens now? I asked. Now comes the final step, the voice said. The part your grandfather could not do himself. My heart beat faster. What is it? The most valuable part of his legacy was never in his name, the voice said. After discovering the truth, he quietly moved ownership of his most important private project into a protected legal structure. What does that mean? It means the real fortune, the one built from your parents' original idea, has been growing in secret for years. I stopped walking. How much is it worth? I whispered. More than everything your relatives celebrated yesterday, the voice said. I felt dizzy. And it belongs to you, the voice said gently. But only if you choose to accept it. Choose? Your grandfather didn't just want an heir, the voice said. He wanted someone who would do better, someone who would be fair, someone who would remember people matter more than money. Tears slid down my cheeks again, but this time they felt warm instead of sharp. I don't know how to run companies, I said. You don't have to do it alone, the voice replied, but you do have to decide what kind of future you want that money to build. Before I could answer, another call beeped in. Clara. I froze. She's calling, I whispered. Be careful, the voice warned. I switched calls. Hello? Where are you? Clara demanded. Uncle Roland said you were at the old train station this morning. Why? My heart raced. I just went for a walk. A walk? She snapped. Since when do you wake up early to walk? I couldn't sleep. There was muffled talking on her end, other voices. They think you found something, she said. Did Grandpa leave you more than that stupid envelope? I looked at the busy street around me, people walking, cars passing. No one knew my world had just flipped upside down. No, I said quietly. I didn't. A long pause. Fine, she said, but her voice had changed, less teasing, more suspicious. Just come home. The call ended. I switched back. They're starting to worry, I said. Good, the voice replied, because the truth has a way of making guilty people nervous. I looked down at my backpack, where the wooden box rested inside. What's the final step? I asked. Meeting me, the voice said, face to face. Where? At the place your grandfather trusted most, the voice said. The old lakeside cabin. My breath caught. Uncle Roland had joked about selling it. When? I asked. Tonight, the voice said, before your family realizes just how much they should be afraid. I looked toward home, where the people who shared my last name were probably whispering about me. Then I looked the other way, toward the road that led out of town, toward the cabin Grandpa loved, toward the truth waiting there. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like the smallest person in the family. I felt like the one holding the real story, and they had no idea how close it was to coming out. The road to the lakeside cabin was narrow and dark, with trees leaning over it like they were whispering secrets to each other. Grandpa used to drive slowly here, windows down, smiling at the smell of pine and water. I hadn't been back since I was little. Now I walked the last part on foot, my backpack heavy on my shoulders, my heart beating fast but steady. I wasn't running anymore. I wasn't confused anymore. I knew why Grandpa chose me. The cabin came into view through the trees, small, wooden, and quiet beside the still lake. A light glowed in the window. Someone was inside. My phone buzzed. Come in, the voice said. I walked up the steps. Each one creaked, just like I remembered. I pushed open the door. Inside, the cabin smelled like old wood and tea. A man stood near the table. He looked older than Grandpa had, with kind eyes and gray hair pulled back neatly. He wasn't scary. He looked calm. You came? He said gently. You're the one who's been calling, I said. Yes, he nodded. My name is Harold. I was your grandfather's closest friend for over 40 years. I stepped inside and closed the door. He trusted you, I said. With his life, Harold replied. And with yours. We sat at the wooden table. A folder rested between us. I saw the documents, I said quietly. They stole my parents' idea. Harold nodded, sadness in his eyes. Your parent was brilliant. The system that made your grandfather's company famous, that was their design, their work, their dream. Why didn't anyone stop it? Because the people who stole it were loud, he said. And your parent was kind. They believed family would do the right thing. I looked down at my hands. They didn't, I said. No, he agreed softly. They didn't. He opened the folder. After your parent passed, your grandfather started looking deeper. When he found the truth, it broke his heart. But he was also a patient man. Inside the folder were more papers, newer ones. Legal forms, ownership transfers. He quietly created a private company, Harold explained. Built from the original design your parent made, improved over time, protected, hidden from my family, I said. Yes. They thought all the success came from the main business. They never knew the most valuable part had been moved. How valuable? I asked. Harold gave a small smile. Enough to change thousands of lives, not just yours. I swallowed. This company, he continued, develops technology that helps small hospitals run better and cheaper. Your parent wanted it to help people who couldn't afford big city care. Tears filled my eyes again. That's why your grandfather protected it so carefully, Harold said. He didn't want greed to touch it. And now? I asked. He turned the final page toward me. My job was to protect it until the heir was ready, he said. All ownership transfers to you the moment you sign. I stared at the line with my name. I'm not rich like them, I said. I don't think like them. Good, Harold said. I looked up. Your grandfather didn't want another business shark, he said. He wanted a guardian, someone who would remember why this started. I thought about Grandpa's garden, the birds, the quiet talks. I don't want revenge, I said slowly. I just want the truth to matter." Harold smiled warmly. "Then you are exactly who he hoped for." I picked up the pen. My hand shook not from fear, but from the size of the moment. I signed. Just like that, everything changed. Not because I suddenly had money, but because I had a choice. 2 days later, the family gathered again at Grandpa's big house. But this time, no one was celebrating. Uncle Roland's face was red with anger. Aunt Beatrice looked pale. Clara wouldn't meet my eyes. They had learned the truth the hard way. When Grandpa's visible money was divided, it looked huge. But without the hidden company supporting it, many of the businesses they inherited were already losing value. And then the lawyers contacted them. The real founder documents had been filed. The ownership trail had been revealed. Their names were not on the original designs. My parents' name was... And now, mine was on the future. "You tricked us!" Aunt Beatrice shouted. "No," I said calmly. "You tricked yourselves." Uncle Roland stepped forward. "That company belongs to this family." "It does," I said, "just not in the way you wanted." Clara finally looked at me. "You're just going to take everything?" I shook my head. "I'm going to do what Grandpa and my parent wanted," I said. "Help people. Build something good, not just bigger." They didn't understand. Maybe they never would. But for the first time, their laughter didn't make me feel small. It just sounded empty. Weeks later, I stood in a small hospital in a town far from ours. New equipment was being installed, systems designed by the company my parent had dreamed of. Doctors and nurses smiled, shaking hands, thanking us. Harold stood beside me. "Your grandfather would be proud," he said. I watched a little kid run down the hallway, laughing, healthy. "I hope so," I said. The money hadn't changed who I was. It had just given me the power to protect what should have been protected all along. My family still had their houses, their cars, their parties. But I had something they never understood. I had Grandpa's trust. I had my parents' legacy. And I had a future built not on greed, but on kindness that someone finally chose to believe in. The first time I walked back into Grandpa's garden, it was quiet. No lawyers, no shouting relatives, no laughter that sounded fake and loud. Just the wind moving softly through the trees. I stood in the same spot where he used to sit with his tea. The old chair was still there. A little worn, a little faded, but still strong. I sat down and looked at the sky. "So, I did it," I whispered. Not for the money. Not to win, but to protect what he had believed in. The truth about my parents' work didn't explode like a bomb. It didn't destroy the family in one big moment. It changed things slowly, quietly, like truth usually does. Lawyers handled the legal side. Records were corrected. Ownership was made clear. Some relatives tried to fight it at first, but paper doesn't lie, and neither do old signatures. Eventually, they stopped calling, stopped arguing, stopped pretending they were the heroes of a story that was never theirs. Uncle Roland sold one of his buildings not long after. Aunt Beatrice stopped hosting loud parties. Clara moved to another city and only sent short messages on holidays. We weren't close before. Now we were just honest strangers. And strangely, that felt lighter than fake family ever did. The company grew in a different way than before. Not flashy, not loud, but real. We focused on what my parent had wanted from the start, helping smaller hospitals, clinics, and towns that usually got ignored. I visited one of the first places we helped upgrade. It was a tiny hospital with peeling paint and old machines that made more noise than sense. The doctors worked hard, but they didn't have the tools they needed. 6 months later, I came back. The walls were bright. The machines were new. The waiting room was full of people who didn't have to travel hours for care anymore. A nurse shook my hand with tears in her eyes. "You have no idea what this means for us," she said. But I did. Because Grandpa had told me once, while we watched birds at the feeder, money is loud when it's spent on showing off, and quiet when it's spent on helping. Now I understood. One evening, I went to the lakeside cabin alone. The sun was setting, turning the water gold. I sat on the wooden steps and listened to the soft sound of waves touching the shore. I brought the old wooden box with me. Inside it now were 3 things. The photo of Grandpa and my parent on launch day, a copy of the first company design with my parents' name on it, and the original envelope with the phone number that changed everything. I traced Grandpa's handwriting with my finger. If he had given me millions in a check that day, I might have spent it without understanding. But he gave me something harder. A path. A truth. A responsibility. He trusted me not because I was the loudest, but because I listened. Because I cared. Because I stayed when others left. I looked out over the water and smiled. "They never saw it," I said softly. "But you did." A breeze moved through the trees, gentle and warm. For the first time since the will reading, I didn't feel like the forgotten grandchild. I felt like exactly who I was meant to be. Not the richest in the family, not the most powerful, but the one who carried the real story forward, the one who turned hurt into help, the one who proved that kindness is not weakness. It's a different kind of strength. And as the sun slipped below the lake, painting the sky in soft gold and purple, I realized something simple and steady. Grandpa's greatest inheritance was never money. It was trust. And I would spend the rest of my life making sure he was right to give it to me.